blissfully unaware. You just do things. You know what? I kind of wish, like, for people who are working for absolute good, and again, nobody's perfect. So I'm not saying that people who are working for good are perfect, but I just wish, those of us on the progressive side, like that we were kind of like blissfully unaware about what neoliberals had to say. And we just keep on pushing on, because something, the traits that like a Santos carries, if those traits are utilized for the right reasons, there's something about just pushing through, no matter, not giving a damn what anybody else has to say.
Yeah.
Well,
Meanwhile, George.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, George Santos just reminds me of this like legendary like tweet that lives in my head rent free, and it's something along the lines of like, I don't even necessarily believe what I'm saying. I'm just talking recreationally. Like that is George Santos in a nutshell.
That is George Santos. I mean, to be George Santos, I don't know. They say ignorance is bliss, I guess, but I don't think he necessarily, because ignorance just means not knowing. The man, I don't know. Maybe you're right, but maybe he is blissfully unaware. So ignorance is bliss in this case. Santos is the gift that keeps on giving, y'all. We will keep revisiting the antics of this elected official from time to time so that we can all analyze and have a good laugh. Well, that is our show for today. It was absolutely fabulous, Benny, to have you on the show. Can't wait to have you back. And for each and every one of you, it was fabulous that you were able to join us today. And again, I am on the road, and I appreciate you all so very much. And you know what I want you to do about this time. I always, and I know it can be daunting sometimes, I always want you to keep the faith, but I want you to marry with that faith a whole bunch of fight. Until next time.
Welcome, friends. Welcome, family. What's up, Ma? Welcome to a Tuesday edition of The Watch List. There's a lot to watch today. There's a lot going on. As a matter of fact, we might even have a chuckle or two. And you know what? Speaking of that, watch this.
There was nothing more satisfying than seeing fridges full of untouched Bud Light, normally the best seller. We all drank a local IPA beer instead. So did most everybody else. Now, I was going to make a big deal about this. I'm proud of our stand that we took until primetime producers told me the local beer we were drinking is actually owned by Anheuser-Busch.
Pete Hegseth on Fox News bragging about their Budweiser Bud Light boycott, only to find out that, looky here, the local IPA they drink is owned by the same damn company. To laugh with me about this is my guest, Mayor Mondale Robinson. As I say mayor because he's the mayor of of North Carolina, Enfield, North Carolina, and he's also a Rebel HQ contributor. That's just a nice little starter. It's not really a full story, but how you doing here, Mondale?
This Bud's for you. Or not.
I saw this yesterday, and I was like, I think the reason so many of these conservatives love them some capitalism is because they have no idea how it works. Zero clue. So you mean a huge corporation can own smaller ones and continue to monopolize damn near the entire market? That's weird how that works. What system is this? Socialism? Communism?
Yeah. And the funny part about it for me is like these Republicans are on this rant about all these corporations that are being woke, but they had no problem when corporations telling gay couples you can't get your flowers and your cupcakes here for your wedding. Interesting how they care about what businesses say now.
It kind of switches up every once in a while, which means in the next election cycle, we'll see what the next target they have once this one fails as well. That's why the fight is here. Thank you guys for joining me as well. Since you guys are sitting here hanging out with us, go ahead, like, subscribe, maybe even share that stream. And once we're done with this damn show, we're going to put some of these clips up also on the Watchlist TYT page over on YouTube, Facebook, all the fun places. Go check them out there too. And when you're there, share that too. Do me a favor, why don't you? Last point before we get started on these mini stories that we have, and there's one that's absolutely my favorite. That's an absolute barn burner. I just want to say, yes, this is a Dubs hat. Yes, this is a Dubs shirt. What's up, May Money? I appreciate you. My last thought is free Draymond Green. That's all I'm gonna say. Free Draymond, because he was not wrong in that situation. If you know, you know. Let's go ahead and start this first story, you guys.
A 20-year-old woman was fatally shot after turning up the wrong driveway in upstate New York. Police say Kaylin Gillis was in the car with 3 friends looking for a friend's house in the rural area of Hebron, New York on Saturday night. After mistakenly pulling into the wrong driveway, police say Kevin Monahan came out of the house and fired 2 shots. One of the shots struck Gillis. They then drove to the neighboring town of Salem to get cell service and call for help. Emergency responders performed CPR on Gillis, but she was pronounced dead.
If this story sounds familiar to something we've been hearing about, yes, it actually is. We've been hearing about the story of Ralph Yarrow in Kansas City, Missouri, that was shot on a porch. And here's another story just 2 days after that occurrence that happened to 20-year-old Kaylin Gillis. Shot dead, though, this time even more tragically. The sheriff had a press conference and he talked about how he personally knew the family. Let's watch.
From all indications, she was, like I said, an innocent young girl who was out with friends looking for another friend's house. I know for a fact that she comes from a good family, a very good family, and I know them personally. And, you know, she was a young girl that was taken way too young.
Investigators do not believe that there was any interaction between the group of people in the car and the suspect before he opened fire.
Absolutely no interaction between the two until some gunshots were ringing out. As you heard there, the police, I believe it's the chief there, talking about the whole thing, the sheriff there talking about the whole thing and how he personally knew them. We've said many times, as the gun violence continues to grow, it's going to touch everyone. It already has probably, but if it hasn't yet, it's coming to a door near you. So directly there, we've had governors of the past 2 states that have had shootouts like this happen. They've known personally some folks involved in it. It continues to spread. And also the other same common thought here, she comes from a good family. Why do we have to point out how kids, in this case, she's not a child, but a young adult, 20 years old, comes from a good family? Because maybe if she came from a bad family, or if Ralph came from a bad family and he had some kind of criminal record that they have to not talk about, if he had any of those things, then maybe he did deserve to be shot. Maybe she did deserve to be shot for driving up to the wrong address looking for a friend's house. It shouldn't matter. Those are excuses to hold on to your guns over young folks' lives. So let's get some details about this person who killed her. He's a 65-year-old man. His name is Kevin Monahan. He's charged with second-degree murder. Police officers responded to the home from where the shots were fired and found him to be uncooperative, is what they said, that he refused to exit his residence and speak with police. He was taken into custody hours later. Pause one more time as we look at Monahan, I believe his name is. Monahan. Imagine if you shot someone, killed him, and then the cops show up and you decide to have a standoff with them with your weapons and whatever other weapons you may have in the home. Just figure how long they might last before your house is riddled with bullets. We just did a story yesterday where cops showed up to the wrong address. No one said anything. No one refused to come out. Someone answered the door with his gun in his hand, and he was murdered. So just pointing out how this guy continued to get the preferential treatment there. Maybe they're worried. I'm not going to put any onus on the police on this particular thing. But still, so we see where this whole thing has gone. We're going to get to updates about the Ralph Yarl case as well. But first, Mayor Robinson, your thoughts here of how this keeps on happening.
Yeah, it keeps on happening because American politicians and our society does not deem it wrong. If this young lady was living in any other country, she'd still be alive. This is absolutely disgusting, and it's connected to the fact that last year alone, 15.6 million guns were sold in America. That is disgusting. That is disgusting. It also relates to the fact that we've had more than 100 mass shootings in this country already this year. Almost 12,000 people murdered by guns this year. It is disgusting. And until people are outraged by it, and like you said, until it touches everybody's household, it's not going to be a problem. And we should not be talking about gun violence in the state of this is a good family, bad family situation. It is an American addiction problem. Addictions to guns, because Republicans and other politicians are selling fear. Fear. These white people that own guns, 5 and 6 guns, are afraid of everything, and it's showing up in how they interact with their neighbors.
If you don't and if you don't think these laws that they passed, or at least the promotion of the stand your ground laws, as we've seen over the years, if you think that's not part of encouraging folks to hold on to your guns and use them any way you want, we've legislated a law to help back your indiscriminate shooting. And of course, we want you to have more guns. What do you think will happen? Because of course, the first thing you said is he was coming to get me, or you don't know what Ralph was about to do. You have no idea what Caitlin was about to do when she drove up at the edge of that long driveway in some rural part of New York. It doesn't have to matter, but he at least is charged with second-degree murder. How about the charges for the man who shot and didn't kill Ralph Yarl, though? He's 84 years old. His name is Andrew Lester. He's also been taken into custody, and people were wondering then why this wasn't happening immediately, considering the devastating approach to this whole thing. So he's facing charges of assault in the first degree and armed criminal action. He's facing first-degree assault in armed criminal action. So on Tuesday, he was also taken into custody, and the sheriff's office released this mugshot of his sorry ass. There's one question that was around that, though, and I had to find out because this was starting to swirl. People were starting to get upset, and luckily I found an answer as far as those charges, because they seemed kind of light. When asked why Lester was not being charged with attempted murder, Clay County prosecutor Zachary Thompson explained that the possible sentence under assault was actually more severe. I'll look this up a little bit. It could be a random thing. It's probably state by state, but this thing in particular about this whole idea of first-degree assault versus attempted murder. It's about the level of how much you can actually prove it. When it comes to attempted murder, you have to a point, prove that the person was planning it, wanted to murder the person when they did what they did, and then when they fired, say, the shots or administered the stab wounds, whatever way that they looked to kill someone, you have to prove that that was their final intent, and not just extreme bodily harm. But extreme bodily harm could be given to first-degree criminal assault or whatever the language was for this, which at the end of the day, both could carry life sentences. So the result, as far as jail time, ends up around the same. And when it comes to this guy who's 84 years old, I'm banking like 5 years is about it for this guy. let's jump to this next story, you guys. So there's updates at least on that and more devastating information there. Protect your kids. You guys, if you're at the grocery store, make sure you don't reach into your pockets too quickly. If you're driving down the street, make sure you don't reach into your glove compartment because someone might think you're shooting and then they'll shoot first. This is America in 2023. Okay, you guys, now I'm ready for this next story.
I realized, like your job, I heard the other day, said, I heard 10 or 12 people going to the sheriff. I said, let's get 20. They don't have a goddamn clue what they're getting into.
Oh, yeah,
not this day and age.
But everybody.
I'm gonna tell you something. If it was back in the day, would Alan Marshall take a damn blackjack, whoop their ass, and throw them in the cell? I'd run for sheriff.
Yeah. Well, it's not like that no more.
I know. Take them down here on Mud Creek and hang them up with the damn rope.
Yeah.
But you can't do
And
that.
the thing about it is,
they got more rights than we got.
These are some random guys talking in the backwoods somewhere in Alabama about how they want to lynch black folks. No, these are folks that are in charge. These are people that are in positions of power to do just that. These are Oklahoma officials from Curtin County, and they were caught on audio talking about murder, laughing about people dying, and specifically in this case, talking about how they can't go back to the good old days of lynching black folks, because if I could do that then, I'd be sheriff right now. So as we continue to act like our country has advanced so much, we see things like this. Some of the things that they talked about, because there's much more, was lynching black folks, as you heard there, murdering and burying journalists, and making fun of a woman who died in a fire, acting like she's a piece of meat, literally. We'll get to all that. So let's go to the next part about this, because look, these folks from the Curtin Gazette News, which is a small town newspaper, one of the few that still just print only, they had suspicions about these folks, these officials, and the way that they talk about everyone, and they don't like the way that this particular newspaper has been covering them or exposing them. So this is what they had to say about some of these journalists, the very ones who exposed them. Watch.
What they really don't know is
and that's the thing about it. 20 years ago, I would have done something like that. I mean, 20 years ago, I wasn't in a political position. You know?
They're insignificant in my life.
Yes.
Really, they bring
No
that to
saying
my
is,
table.
you know,
What goes around goes around.
It will. I told you it will.
Yeah.
I know where two big deep holes are if you ever need them.
I got an excavator.
These are our pre-dug. Yeah, but the thing of it is, you know,
We actually told the truth.
I've known 2 or 3 hitmen that are very quiet guys
Yeah,
and would cut no fucking mercy
yeah,
in Louisiana because it's all mafia around
Yeah.
Louisiana.
Oh, yeah.
Officials talking about murdering journalists. They've got hitmen available that do things very quietly and viciously. They got a couple holes already dug for these journalists. Which country does this sound like? All these small town backwoods areas, I'm not even sure if this is one of them. It could be even more expansive than that. They talk very freely and openly about their murderous beliefs. There's more, though. Mondale, I feel like I need to let you in first because there's so much to already talk about. These things have been exposed, and there are some questions for action, but I'm not sure what's going to happen yet.
Before any of these actions happen out, we should first play out the circumstance that everybody that's been charged by this sheriff or anybody in his department should bring. If you're black, bring your case back up, get a lawyer, because we see that there's racism embedded in this culture. The fact that you are this comfortable in a space with this many people having this conversation, I hate to see what your private conversation is about. You may be talking about the bodies you buried. These people are talking about a sheriff talking about he knows 2 or 3 hitmen that are quiet and cuts no mercy. Where are these hitmen? Where are they? Why aren't you? What kind of lawless? This is the Wild Wild West. But we also know this is the America that we live in. We know that they're talking about stringing up, going back to the days when you could string up black bodies in public square and there'd be no repercussions. And the fact that you can't do that means that black people have more rights than them. What they're really saying is white people have no right or obligation to follow or respect any rights that any black people have. And the fact that they're being made to do that is problematic for them. This is absolutely disgusting that public officials, allegedly public officials, are showing up in this manner. But hey, this is America, and we should not be surprised. When we pretend that we're surprised, we give space for white people to continue to act as if this is not the norm for black people in this country.
Well, that's for somebody to protect something like that. I'm glad you brought it up that way because I was just writing down for folks who support the police broadly and blindly and say everything a police officer does is perfectly fine because he never messes with me. If that's your thought process and you hear something like this, then what does your brain do? What's the next step for you? Is it, oh, I'm going to dismiss that out of my brain because I need my narrative to continue to live? Or would you then be the most incensed about this? You should be the most upset about this because your reality has now been challenged with some real reality, and you should be thinking we need to clean this up so that my belief in the police system can go back to being pure because you've just been shown how bad it is. And if you were actually on the other side of these declarations and these plans, would you be okay with it? Would you be okay with these police officers talking about potentially murdering your wife, your husband, your kids, your family, you, because of who you are? The thought process doesn't go that far. It's just be quiet. It's really not a problem. It doesn't affect me. So we've talked so far about journalists. Maybe you guys hate journalists, so you're okay with that. And we've also talked about black folks and they want lynched again. Okay, fine. You hate black folks too, so who cares? How about just a regular citizen who was a victim of a fire and the way they laugh and talk about her? Let's listen to that.
On a burnt body, we wrap it up in tinfoil to preserve the body and stuff like that. And we got all the body parts and stuff like that. And Kyla was out there too.
All the body part. Oh, she come apart.
Yeah, just the burnt bodies.
I know. I picked up on
and
they really fall apart when they're burnt.
And yeah.
Have you ever had barbecue?
That's another thing.
Yeah.
Same.
I'm hungry.
Kyla looks at the face.
Glasses
and they got to wrap the tinfoil and put it in the body bag. Kyla goes, you do know what we got to do now, right? And Face goes, no, what? She goes, you got to preheat the oven 350 degrees, leave her in there for 15 minutes. And she went,
Get the feeling maybe some of these hitmen are out there in the office themselves because he talked about how cold and calculated and quiet they are. Only problem is this guy's really loud. Let's take a look at the McCurtain County Sheriff, Kevin Clardy. Doesn't matter. Let's look at him. The governor of Oklahoma has called for the resignations of both this sheriff and other top officials in this rural county after they were recorded talking about all this stuff. Beating, killing, and burying folks. A father-son team of local reporters is those two that they were talking about, and all the rest that we've heard. The Willingham family, who runs the newspaper, by the way, that's exposed them. Again, it's a print-only newspaper. It's one of the few left in the country. They've turned over these recordings, and how did they get them? Apparently, they slipped some audio equipment in this room where they were going to be meeting, potentially knowing the types of things that they like to talk about and how all sheriffs and these officials have to do is go, no, we didn't. We're the good old boys. We're very fair until you hear the reality of what is happening. One more part here, Mondale. For nearly a year, they've suffered intimidation, ridicule, and harassment based solely on their efforts to report the news from McCurtain County is what the statement said from these folks there that got this information. None of the four officials named by Stitt, who's the governor, could be reached for comment. But late Monday, the McCurtain County Sheriff's Office said in a statement that the recording was illegally obtained and appears to be altered. Mondale, I can't wait for them to tell me what was really in those conversations and how those words that they said were taken out of context.
Yeah, you can't make a context about knowing a hitman bad. I mean, you can't fix that. You also can't fix the fact that you want to go back to days when people can be hanging or hung. I'm sorry with this idea that it appears to be illegal and also it seems to be altered. Altered what? What's altered? The altering as it came out. That's the altering. The fact that the world knows how you believe and think. I think the idea, though, what we see here is we are so quick to point our fingers at China and countries in Central South America about killing and doing certain things to journalists. We are silent. We're silent in this country as we see Fox News attack real journalism. We see Donald Trump, and now we see what's happening with sheriffs in rural counties across this country when people don't like what's happening. These people they put those recordings there because they knew that they had been suffering from this for more than a year, and nobody was believing them because, like you said, them good old boys, and ain't no way they acting up like that. They love the rule of law when in actuality they don't give a damn about law. They care about respect for what they believe in, which seems to be white supremacy, and a time where only white people had laws that were that should be followed as it benefit them. I'm nervous. I'm nervous because I think this way of thinking is is the norm for police departments across this country. And if it wasn't, it wouldn't be so many people dying year after year at the hands of police officers, especially people that look like you and me.
We've seen the text messages. We're seeing this out in Oklahoma somewhere. We've seen the text message from the LA County sheriffs. We've seen, and that's a huge department. And so it doesn't really matter the city that you're in or the size of it or the demographics. And matter of fact, if there's more diversity, you just might find more of this because they have an opportunity to go after the others that everyone's always targeting. So one last thought here. Imagine you're a black person. Try for a minute. And you want to take a cross-country road trip because I've done that before. You find yourself in the middle of some town in the middle of Missouri, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, Texas. And then these folks talk like this. Do you think you feel any kind of way safe? Do you feel like you feel safe in your country? Because we have this weird mindset of if I go over to Iraq, Iran, any other country, and I don't know anything what's going on there, I should watch my back and try and figure it out because something wild may go down. And you know what? I have those thoughts too. But you know what most minorities in this country have a thought about when they go through across our country to unknown areas like that? I could end up missing and no one could ever find me again. And the authorities here could potentially be responsible for it. And that's a reality we have to deal with in the country. And as we tell those stories, you go, you know how far we've gone? Because that doesn't affect those people that like to shoot down these types of things until you hear it. Every time someone talks about how these libs want to get rid of the police or defund them or reallocate funds, ask them what they think of these types of interactions and why that's okay, because they never answer that question. I've talked long enough. Let's take our first break. Looking forward to some of your comments. When we get back, it's absolutely my favorite story of the day. I'm going to take a few minutes on it, but we're talking about Ali Alexander, and don't act like you don't know. I've got lots of thoughts. Let's do that when we get back.
Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Idarola. This is gonna be a big one.
Meanwhile, in the Arctic, you know where this is going. You watch the Damage Report, the Arctic's on fire. Obviously, why would we be talking about the Arctic except to tell you that it's melting once again? The Republicans aren't that interested in it. I wonder why. Lift out of poverty up to 3.7 million people, including an estimated 1.3 million children. Hashtag save the children? Not if it costs money. I mean, come on.
What's happening? I'm Dr. Rashad Richey, host of Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Richey. Here's the bottom line. I play no games about policy, period. Too many people's lives are at stake. So here's what I do. I challenge conservative ideology that hinders the growth of this country. I make sure we place our facts in proper context, and I have no problem debating anyone on a position that I have. Progressives have the ideas to change the world, but when you really look at it, progressives have always change this world for the better. I want you to tune into my new show, Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Richey, right here on the TYT Network, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Time. I'll see you there.
Everything that we've accomplished over the years is because of our members who've allowed us to remain independent of corporate interests and reach 20 million followers. Now is the time to bring as many people into the progressive movement as possible. We're inviting you to be the change and help bring a community-powered progressive change machine to life. Details are at tyt.com/change. If you're a member, thank you. We need you to remain so. If you're one of the thousands of viewers out there who's not a member yet, the time has come for you to join now. We need you more than ever. tyt.com/change.
Back on the watch list, you guys. There's a lot to get to, so I'm going to read this one comment, especially since it's apparently about a beautiful man. Mickey C. the Silver-Haired Dragon says, love having Mayor Mondale on. Also, love his point of view, his politics, and his direct convos. Also, easy on the eyes, too. I'm willing to promote and normalize these compliments coming into these fellas that end up on my show, how pretty they are. Because, you know what, it gets spread so much to all of our female contributors and their looks, regardless of their thoughts. I'm willing to accept it for this particular case. Good, Mondale, you're a pretty young man.
Thank you, brother.
Let's go ahead and start this next story. It's wild.
How dare you? You disrespect the Western tradition. You disrespect America. You know nothing about the founding. Go home. Go home. Ho. Ho. Go home. In the coming days, I'm going to reveal that Marjorie Taylor Greene, in my summation and the summation of lawyers, committed a crime. That crime is going to be handed to the state of Georgia. And the state of Georgia will decide whether they adjudicate that crime or not. The House Ethics Committee and House Rules must expel Marjorie Taylor Greene when this evidence comes to light. Ho, go home. I am done with you. You are lukewarm. I am spitting you out of my mouth. You played me and no more. I was fighting and bleeding for this country, Marge. I came here before you. I will be here after you. Ho, go home.
Go home, ho. Go home. Yo, I have no idea how I didn't heard that audio before, but there's L.A. Alexander there screaming about Marjorie Taylor Greene needing to go home. Yeah, that's older audio, but there's more going on. L.A. Alexander, in case you got to know, part of the Stop the Steal rally organizer, close confidant of former President Donald Trump, and close buddies with a bunch of people that I'm about to mention right now. So there's drama going on. So, of course, this is happening. Oh, they fighting. Mama, they fighting. Let's check this out from Right Wing Watch. They pointed this whole thing out. L.A. Alexander has admitted to soliciting penis pictures from teenage boys. This is part of this whole expose that's come through. Daily Beast pointed this out, but apparently there was interviews going on as he's cooperating with investigations, and it turns out that he's had to admit to doing this. I'm gonna read you just the first couple, sentences, paragraphs here in the statement that was just up. This is what L.A. Alexander said. This is too gay. While my audience is familiar with me battling same-sex attraction, others aren't as familiar. I apologize for any inappropriate messages sent over the years. Forgive me. While having repented before God and confessed at church, I want my supporters and those involved to hear my apology today. When I flirted or others have flirted with me, I flexed my credentials or dropped corny pickup lines. Other times, I've been careless and should have qualified those coming up to me's identities during flirtatious banter at the start. Nothing unlawful has occurred. And he starts talking about seeing these false claims, and they've been cherry picking. And then, apparently there's some context clues behind him asking for penis pictures from 16, 17-year-olds, 15-year-old boys. There's different contexts to those things. But still, this is what he's apologizing for, which, of course, led to Marjorie Taylor Greene tweeting this. This is disgusting textbook predation of underage boys, and Nick Fuentes is in on it. Now it's on Nick Fuentes, and she even hashtagged Nick knew. In exchange for recanting his accusation, Nick Fuentes and L.A. Alexander offered to get him a job in politics. She's speaking specifically about one person that was detailed in his interactions with L.A. Alexander. So there was a bit of a quid pro quo for sexual favors to be given some professional opportunities. It's pretty standard stuff, but it's still disgusting, predatory, and in this case, pedophilia. Weird. L.A. Alexander, obviously, he rolls with people like Nick Fuentes, Milo Yiannopoulos, Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's odd how that works. All these MAGA types, and the fighting is now going down. Hal Sparks points out some of these things after Marge then tweeted that as if she has nothing to do with it, and then everyone else forgot that she has everything to do with these interactions. So Fuentes is now facing some more backlash, and partially from Marge, from his own supporters, over whether he ignored these warnings that L.A. Alexander, his friend and ally, was allegedly soliciting these nude pictures from young men within Fuentes' movement. So maybe while he was moving around and campaigning with Nick, maybe Nick knew about it and he was like, you know what? We're trying to do something more hateful and disgusting. And we want to talk about pedophilia with other folks, but we actually don't want to stop it within our own ranks. That's what's being accused of him by people like Marge and others. So where does Milo Yiannopoulos fall into this? He began exposing all these things. Some of the stuff came forward. Maybe that's why Alexander decided to confess. And he said he's doing it because they had a falling out over this whole grift back and forth over the Kanye West campaign for president that everyone knew wasn't going to go anywhere except for these three idiots. And now they're caught in this tornado. So Kanye did one thing right as far as this whole thing. I'm going to give you one particular exchange that happened and that was revealed in this Daily Beast piece. This is an interaction with one Aiden Duncan. In 2017, Aiden Duncan, who was 15 years old, he was from Colorado, he was interested in right-wing politics. He sent Ali nude pictures after Ali, he asked him for them. That's according to an account that Duncan gave in March of this year. In a September 4th, 2017 exchange about an upcoming trip Alexander was planning, he purportedly told Duncan he would introduce the teenager to Milo and speculated about whether the boy would be Alexander's, quote, arm candy, and suggested that the boy would have to be entertaining. And he said, rolling with me? Mostly, I'll have an entourage. Depends, huh? I mean, depends if it's me babysitting you during the day, then no. I don't have kids. If it's something more entertaining, then maybe. All depends on what we're up to. No matter what, I'll let you meet Milo. There's probably 5 people I'll introduce to him, but who will be my arm candy? The one with me always in VIP, in and out. Well, that is to be determined by the boy who plays his cards the most correct. There's so much more going on here, but just that interaction there and talking about how he's soliciting this arm candy from a teenage boy at the time 15 to go around and be entertaining rather than him having to babysit, apparently for these possibilities of getting in on some right-wing politics. That's how you get introduced to right-wing politics. Then after you get introduced in this manner, then you have to start talking about how these folks that are attracted to certain folks, you hate them. This is the basis for the Republican Party, apparently. So there's a little bit more. The fallout is now coming out as we see these revelations come. Nick Fuentes went on Dalton Claude Felter's podcast. I hadn't heard of this guy before, but apparently he's pretty deplorable. But he went on his podcast, I believe it was today, to talk about the resolution to this whole problem. Watch.
I talked to Ali, and he understands how strongly people feel and how strongly I feel, and he's bowing out of public life. So nobody has to worry about that. He's bowing out of public life, and I urged him to do that. So, you're welcome.
Oh, sorry. I just had some popcorn while watching this. It's great. So these guys are fighting over whether or not they're big enough pedophiles or supporters of pedophilia and whether or not they're the right-wing guys, and all these fights are going down. And you know what else Nick Fuentes then wrote after Marge has decided to come forward and really start burning these bridges? He said Marge Taylor Greene is having her tweets ghostwritten by homosexual pedophile Milo and collaborating with the Daily Beast to smear me. What a disgusting pig this woman is. Oh, Mayor Mondale, they're fighting. I'm gonna let you talk while I finish swallowing this popcorn.
Man, I need some popcorn for this fight too. Listen, who cares about the boxing match, the championship match that's happening this weekend when we got Republicans swinging like this? But let's be honest right here, right? First of all, there's a couple things at play. The only reason Marjorie spoke up is because both of these guys have been excommunicado from the Donald Trump's network, right? Nick Fuentes, who came out upset with Donald Trump. And then also you got Ali, who said that Marjorie committed a crime when she was supporting Kevin McCarthy's candidacy for Speaker of the House. This is all this is about. This is her way to get back at them. She don't really care if they're pedophiles or not. What we're learning, though, about this Republican Party, what we're learning is it was never about Pizzagate. It was just about them projecting to keep people away from Matt Gates. I mean, from their gates, whatever they are, right? Because what we continue to see, person after person, we keep seeing these claims come up about folk knowing and also being okay with children being solicited for not just pictures, but also sex. This is an absolute problem that they need to deal with inside their ranks, and not just those on the outside, but also those in the party. And I think we are seeing a willingness from this Republican Party to sit next to anybody as long as you vote the right way. There's no platform for this party other than being loyal to the MAGA ideas, not the person himself, just the far right ideas.
Nothing is real with these folks. Listen, if you start talking about how you're going to expose someone for all their crimes and their misdeeds and their texts with young boys, that means you knew beforehand, and you're withholding that information for what? Continue to access, continue to put possibility for power, money, anything like that. Last I heard, that's illegal. But they don't even realize that as they're going talking about how they're going to expose these crimes. Ali Alexander did. I think you mentioned this. This is what he tweeted. Marjorie Taylor Greene loved me until in December of 2022 exposed the fact that she committed a crime. What was the crime? And you exposed her. That means you knew about it. Why were you holding on to it, Ali? He said, now she's trying to intimidate me and other right-wingers with these smears and lies. So he goes to the same thing that they were talking about and how he's got receipts. How long have you had those receipts? Did they just fall into your lap once this whole horrible story came out about the things you were doing towards young boys? Still, there's more, Mondale. There's other associates like Michael Cernovich, Jack Posobiec, and also others like them. Here's one. There's Cernovich. That screenshot was used here by Michael Hayden. He's a senior investigative reporter and spokesperson for the Southern Poverty Law Center. And he pointed out how they have this connection here. Now, in having that connection, we know Cernovich was a part of this trio of folks that was talking about Pizzagate and things like that. They've always pushed these types of stories to get people to think, hey, I need to attack certain folks, go to this particular location, even continue to progress this hate. And now, when this is all falling apart, people like Cernovich have this to say in response to this fallout. Again, they did work together. There's no denying that. So he says this: the Ali behavior is inexplicable and inexcusable. I would remove him from leadership if he were part of anything I do, which he's not. He needs rehab and an exorcist. That's his solution. God can save his immortal soul, which needs to be his sole focus. People are trying to dogpile me via association. I don't give an F. These people disgust me and they don't even care about the issues of young men and boys being exploited. He just said that. It's a gotcha game to them. This problem is everywhere and it's demonic. Mondale, the projection continues. So it's everyone else that's using pedophilia and groomer language as a gotcha game, or as a political game, or as a way to get ahead and fool enough MAGA minions to actually listen to the things they're saying. When in reality, you associate with these types of folks, you know what these folks are doing. If you're not doing it, and you cover it up because you're still looking for more power and control over those same folks who you're fooling. That's what's going on.
That's exactly what's going on. And the tragic part about it is, if we're being honest, is these people don't care. None of them care about the victims in this situation. They're only talking about, no one said anything about justice. If you heard the podcast, he said, I told him to get out of public life. That's not how criminal justice works.
Yeah.
If you commit a crime, you go to jail. You don't just get out of public life. You go to jail. So there's nobody calling for justice in a real sense. It's all about scoring political points. There will be an email from Marjorie Taylor, I promise you, within the next couple of days, raising money off of this very act, because this is what they do. It's a way to grift and also keep yourself relevant at any cost.
Mondo, you know we love a good prediction here. So yes, we're going to track that. We'll see how soon before Marge starts fundraising off of this, or further distancing herself from these guys who are her buddies. I'll talk about that long enough. Let's go to this next story. This is crazy. See if you might get caught up in something like this.
Have you heard about Kai, the hitchhiking hatchet hero?
This dude went from this heroic, beautiful person to wanted for murder.
An absolute bizarre scene here in West Fresno. A man plows his car into a PG&E worker, pinning him against his truck.
Two women are trying to help him. He runs up and he grabs one of them, man. So I ran up behind him with a hatchet. Smash, smash, smash.
Oh, it's the famous words of Kai, the hatchet-wielding hitchhiker. Smash, smash, smash. I remember we did this back in the day on the Young Turks. There's a documentary that's been produced by Netflix, and they detailed this whole crazy situation with them, which it is a crazy situation. It's probably a pretty good documentary. I will check it out, except there's one problem with that documentary. This man named Taylor Hazelwood somehow got caught up in it. His name is not Kai, but apparently they thought it was. So this man is suing Netflix in a Dallas County court, alleging that this true crime documentary on Netflix took a photo from his Instagram account and used it without his permission. Hazelwood alleges that the film depicts him in a sinister and defamatory light. and has harmed his reputation by using his photograph. He's seeking more than $1 million in damages. So the question then is, let's look at this image here as this picture was displayed on their quick motion that was going through on this documentary. This is our friend Hazelwood, Taylor Hazelwood, not Kai McGilvery. But they thought so, and they even said, they said things like, I believe it was on lines of, could a normal person be such a axe-wielding psychopath? Something along those lines, how it's unassuming. And apparently they were right, because it's not the same guy. He also said he has no idea why they used his photo for it, because he doesn't see the resemblance. So this picture of Hazelwood was of him holding a hatchet was from June of 2019, because he was at least holding a hatchet in the picture, so that's all it takes. And it was posted on his Instagram with the caption, "Hatchet" by Gary Paulson, a reference to his favorite childhood book, apparently. Without any reason other than pure recklessness, Netflix misappropriated the Hazelwood photograph and used it in 2 separate parts of the film. That's what his lawsuit is saying. But he had no connection to this entire case at all. So as we get your thoughts here, Mondale, let's look at this last graphic here, because maybe you guys can decide. Kai and Taylor? I don't know, bro. I don't know.
Yeah, in our community, we'd be like, yo, if that was 2 black men, like just because they got long hair and black, they look alike. Netflix dropped the ball on this one big time, and I think they may be in a lot of trouble. I think the slaying was, is it an angel or stone cold killer? And I think what's going to happen is they're going to pay this angel, because he was actually not even referring to, with his hatchet, he was not even referring to anything other than, I think, a book from when he was a child. So I think this is absolutely disgusting, and the dangers of not checking and rechecking what you're doing, especially with people like this. This is a slip up, and I don't feel any remorse from a major corporation like Netflix, especially when they don't even pay their writers properly.
Oh. And they got all kinds of cash. I'm wondering how they landed on $1 million and not much more. Just saying. Apparently Taylor's a nice guy, because most folks might have been going for a bit of a higher number. Maybe that's all he could go for.
Yeah, so probably in Texas. Texas don't want you suing people, not businesses anyway, for money. So it's probably the max it could do.
Damn. Well, his friends texted him and said, "Bro, what have you been up to?" Damn. Next story, you guys. Everyone has sometimes these disruptions and frustrations on an airplane. But do you respond like this? Watch.
Stuck in a holding pattern for weather, and an SW, a passenger loses his mind over a baby.
That child has been crying for 40 minutes. Lower that, and you can't put your finger about things like that. Calm the child down, please. I had headphones on. I was sleeping. Why is the baby yelling? I'm not screaming. You want me to scream? You want me to scream? Don't scream. Please stop the baby. Please. Bro, please. That child was a black baby. What the is happening right now? Yo, I know you're not going there. You're not going there. I'm going there.
My man. So there was a screaming child on a Southwest flight, apparently down to Florida. And this one particular passenger wanted nothing to do with this screaming baby. And he's trying to figure out, what the hell? Why aren't you guys doing something about this? He was not done. As a matter of fact, one of the best parts was the flight attendant trying to calm him down and also trying to tell him the reasons why they're allowing the baby to scream, but not allowing his grown ass to scream. Watch.
Let's be rational. We are in a tin can with a baby in a goddamn echo chamber, and you want to talk to me about being okay? Okay, because you're yelling. So is the baby. Okay, so you're a man. Did that motherfucker pay extra to yell? Okay, no.
Usually I save this kind of anger and ire and use of all these curse words for instances where, someone deserves it. I'm not sure what this baby did to deserve it, but still, I suppose when a baby's screaming and crying and you're stuck in this holding pattern, everyone's been in these situations and they just want nothing else to do with this. One more piece, though, before we let you in here, Mondale, because I can't wait to hear what you think here. So after he then refused to leave, because, we've already in the middle of 3 or 4 screaming matches. You got me kicked off the plane. I might as well take it to the end. Let's watch this.
Now we work it out. We had to go through all of that. It's worked out now.
heading to Orlando now. He's refusing to get off the plane. So now we're all getting deplaned.
If he had said anything, he wouldn't be sitting on this motherfucking flight with a kid crying for 45 minutes. It wasn't crying for 45 minutes. Bullshit.
No, that's it. You're not even worth anybody's time.
He tried to plead his case that he had a right to yell because there was two adults with a crying baby, and he shouldn't have been disturbed. Well, that's probably not how his wife imagined their Florida getaway going.
Mondale, two of my favorite parts. First of all, he mentioned the guy who's filming, MJ Grabowski. I got to shout out to my man because I regularly get frustrated by people filming crazy events and then either turn the camera the wrong way or continue to put it against a wall. He got every shot. And when he could get a shot of the man's face, he got the shot of his face. When he got him in the back in the airport arguing with security, he got a shot of the man's face. His entire outfit. He got a shot of his wife there with her hand on her head like, please, Robert, shut up. It was perfect. Matter of fact, my man had his comfortable pants on there. He had the like sweat like PJs, but then still a bit of a nice shirt, all to plan out his trip. Only thing that went wrong, Mondale, was that damn baby.
Listen, I probably got an unpopular stance on this, so I'm just gonna I'm gonna say something, but I'm gonna leave it at that. Okay. Listen, this is the problem of airlines keeping people on these tin cans or in these tin cans for an hour and 47 minutes of people not moving is this type of frustration happens. I don't know what was going on with the baby. I have been frustrated with babies crying on planes. I have never reacted this way. I also don't like being held an hour and 47 minutes on a runway. Take me off the plane if it's going to be that long to prevent these situations from happening. I think the de-escalation process was missed by the airline trying to save money or whatever, deplaning and having to replane people. And in the end, everybody still got deplaned because the dude refused to get off the plane. The sad part about this is it was two people up there with their baby, and their baby truly was frustrated, and their baby was getting cursed out by this grown man. He literally said, he asked if the baby paid more to scream because he could. He wanted to know if he could scream because he could pay more too. I think this is unbelievable. It also shows like what happened during COVID, people not knowing how to interact with other people. And there's some serious therapy we need. And that's not a joke. We really need to talk about the ramifications of people being locked in a house for a year and not interacting with other humans, because this is definitely some traumatic stuff that's happening on that Southwest flight. And I want to pay extra so I can scream from that on.
I think, no, for real, I think maybe there's something to it as far as like people not having the same level of patience before and all that, because I hadn't thought about it that way. But yeah, you know, people don't want to deal with things at a certain level, but you know what? You have all these hateful, angry thoughts. You can keep them in your head and just kind of vent. I do it when I'm driving. I don't roll down the window and say, "What are you doing?" Just say to yourself, cuss them out, and move on. You got to get it out. I understand. But just wait till you get to Florida, because obviously he didn't take that flight to Florida. You guys just stay calm. Stay calm, because my man Robert actually had a couple good lines. He was just, in my opinion, in the wrong. And Mondale, you don't have any kids, so I can see why you're coming from that perspective. I've dealt with a crying baby on a plane. It sucks mostly for the parent. Let's just keep it real. All right, let's go to this next story, you guys. We talk CEOs, we talk about income inequality, and also all these upward mobility that doesn't actually exist, maybe because CEOs do things like this.
Questions came through about how can we stay motivated if we're not going to get a bonus? What can we do? What can we do? Some of them were nice and some of them were not so nice. So I'm going to address this head on. Don't ask about what are we going to do if we don't get a bonus? Get the damn $26 million. Spend your time and your effort thinking about the $26 million we need and not thinking about what you're going to do if we don't get a bonus. Thank you. Have a great day.
Quit your bitching and your complaining. Get the $26 million. That's apparently a leaked Zoom call of Andy Owen. She's the CEO of this furniture giant I hadn't heard of, Miller Knoll, also under the name of Herman Miller, apparently. They make a lot of money. And apparently they didn't make enough for folks to get their bonuses, and people were not happy about it. Here's the full clip of what sparked this outrage and her response of.
The most important thing we can do right now is focus on the things that we can control. None of us could have predicted COVID. None of us could have predicted supply chain. None of us could have predicted bank failures. But what we can do is stay in front of our customers, provide the best customer service we can, get our orders out our door, treat each other well, be kind, be respectful, focus on the future because it will be bright. It's not good to be in a situation we're in today, but we're not going to be here forever. It is going to get better. So lead by example, treat people well, talk to them, be kind, and get after it. Don't ask about what are we going to do if we don't get a bonus. Get the damn $26 million. Spend your time and your effort thinking about the $26 million we need and not thinking about what you're going to do if we don't get a bonus. All right? Can I get some commitment for that? I would appreciate that. I had an old boss who said to me one time, you can visit Pity City, but you can't live there. So people, leave Pity City. Let's get it done. Thank you. Have a great day.
I'll tell you what, that was an inspirational speech. You know what? If you really want your bonuses, you should work harder. And you know what? We've been hit by certain things. Sometimes we have a bit of a backpedal and we can't always get the bonuses. You guys need to calm down. It is a pretty decent job for these employees. So why are they bitching and complaining like this? When the company takes a hit, obviously everyone takes a hit. Let's come back. Let's see what the bonuses were from this CEO, Miss Owen. This is part of the criticism. Owen, who describes herself as a defender of equity and inclusion in her private Instagram account, receives the bulk of her pay package in incentive-based compensation, like most CEOs. For the fiscal year of May of 22, this amounted to $3.9 million, which came on top of her regular $1.1 million in fixed salary that she already gets. So as she's talking to these folks about why they need to calm down and actually work a little bit harder and how bonuses just aren't the same because of the situations, don't blame me, bro. She apparently took home an extra $3.9 million. But by the way, it's less than what she usually takes. So bro, calm down. Her compensation declined last year with her total pay package falling to $4.9 million in 2022 from $6.4 million the prior fiscal year. And you know what? She has to feed her family. That salary drop is unlikely to arouse much sympathy, obviously, among those workers supposedly living in, quote, Pity City, as she said. The average pay package for a sales executive at this company is actually $150,000. That's according to this hiring site that talks about it. So these folks are making like $150,000. That's at least the average pay package for these sales folks. Not sure if that's the only person that she was talking, the people that she was talking to. I think so. But yo, the sympathy's starting to reel back for the folks that are making $150K. But then again, in comparison to this whole company where it has CEOs getting this kind of bonuses, so you would think maybe the share packages would go differently. But there's this problem. Everyone at the top is supposed to get everything. Everyone from the bottom is supposed to get told to only visit Pity City and not to live there. Your thoughts here, Mondale? You've had to deal with some of these situations before. I'm not sure what kind of background you've had with other work and if you had to actually cuss someone out like the man on the Southwest flight.
Listen, this CEO sounds like that baby to me. I mean, I heard the same thing, right? Like, there's no difference in her. Like, but she is actually paid. She paid extra or got paid extra to cry and whine. The fact that you're telling people that you make 10, 20 times more to stop crying and get out of Pity City as you take home $3.9 million for bonus, and that's a low year for you. Jesus Christ, talk about like not reading the tea leaves. This is absolutely disgusting. And the fact that this leaked and then the company comes out and defend her and not let her go shows you how they feel about their workers. The idea that you can tell people go get what the company needs and don't worry about what you need is the problem with capitalism. It is a problem with these tone deaf CEOs who say that you can't pay a person making the burgers at McDonald's $15 an hour, but I'm gonna take my $22 million a year. So I can't pay you $15 an hour because the burger's gonna go up or your salary can just go down. You could just take less than $3.9 million a year and spread that across your sales force, the people who actually make money for the company. It is absolutely disgusting seeing this exploitation of work and labor by people continually in this country while we swear we care about workers and it's patriotic to be working. It is this disgusting, and it's also why I know I would much rather be screaming like the man on the plane than the baby on this Zoom call.
No, there's a reason they wouldn't. I wouldn't even have expected them to let go of her over this. This is the system. This is the way it's supposed to work for the company. They're like, well, what did she do wrong? Outside of just maybe insult a couple of employees, which that's fine. If they want to leave, they're losing a nice 6-figure job. Apparently, that's the average, according to that one site. So if they leave, whatever, bro. No problem with me, 150K, we're making our money. And by the way, if you have a dip or whatever like that, I get it. But if you want your works to work harder, smile more, get that damn sale. They just might be more motivated if you pay them based off of what they've already done in the past, or maybe in that past year. I don't know all the business situations with this company, but in general, if you're taking on that kind of pay, it's coming from somewhere. No, I'm not a CEO, so I'm very willing to be corrected. But it's pretty odd that you have folks that are like, you get nothing and you get lectured, well, then we run off with this cash. Okay, cool stuff. Thanks, Mondale, for joining us on the show today. It was quick, wasn't it? Kind of fast. Lots of yelling.
Quick.
But still, I look forward to seeing you next time, brother. Have a good one. Also, you guys, thanks for joining me as well. Please hang around. We got the Young Turks coming up next. Cenk Uygur, as well as an Anna Kasparian. Maybe you've heard of them. Go check them out. We'll see you guys tomorrow.